Graduate and professional students come to study at Penn at different points in their lives. You might be 24 or 42.
Some of you may have just completed an undergraduate degree, while others have a lot of professional work experience.
You may be here for 1 year or 7.
Your experience is outside the classroom, and the relationships you are in may not feel connected to your academic goals.
But it's Penn's responsibility to make sure you have fair and equal access to an education, and that you feel safe and respected in this campus community.
This video will address healthy relationships and sexual violence, which is a national problem that will not be tolerated at Penn.
We hope to educate the graduate and professional student community about these issues and introduce you to the university policies and resources in place to help keep our community safe.
We'll be talking about forms of interpersonal violence, such as relationship and domestic violence, sexual violence, harassment, and stalking. We'll also talk about key concepts like consent and bystander intervention.
We recognize this can be a sensitive and difficult topic, especially for people who have been affected by it. Support resources will be provided throughout and at the end.
But if you need to speak with someone immediately, please stop the video and call the National Sexual Violence Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE.
If you have been paying attention to the media, you know that sexual violence continues to affect universities across the country.
And together we can change our culture for the better by ending violence against women and girls.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
And it has to stop.
To stop sexual assault.
This is a hard topic to address and to combat, but it is important to talk about it because it impacts our entire community.
Penn students took part in a recent national survey of 27 colleges and universities that gathered data about experiences with sexual violence. This survey found that 11.7% of student respondents across the country reported experiencing non-consensual sexual contact by physical force, threats of physical violence, or incapacitation since they enrolled at their university. This includes graduate and professional students.
On this survey, students who identify as transgender, genderqueer, gender nonconforming, or questioning reported the highest rates of experiences with sexual violence.
Sexual violence, relationship violence, and stalking can happen to anyone and be committed by anyone, regardless of
age or gender,
race or ethnicity,
nationality or religion,
socioeconomic status or sexual orientation.
This topic is also difficult to discuss because perpetrators of sexual and relationship violence are not typically strangers. These are usually people students know, someone they trust.
That means we're talking about a friend, a member of your cohort, a lab mate, a faculty or staff member, even a partner, people you would never think could be capable of abuse or assault.
Penn is an incredibly diverse place, with students from around the world embarking on wildly different academic pursuits.
Our diversity can make talking about these issues more challenging. Some of us may have come from places where laws and cultural norms are different, but we're at Penn now, and everyone here is expected to uphold university policies, local, state, and federal laws.
There are many misconceptions about what sexual violence is. This is why it's important for you to know how it's defined by Penn policy.
Sexual violence includes a range of behaviors in which a sexual act occurs without one party's consent or when one party is unable to consent.
In order to understand what sexual violence is, it's important to understand what consent is, or what it isn't.
Because consent needs to be given by clear words or actions by all parties involved.
Consent is not present if a person is being coerced or intimidated.
If you threaten to out me to my parents if I don't sleep with you, that's coercion.
Consent cannot be assumed just because someone isn't resisting.
Check in with your partner. Communicate. Ask, are you comfortable doing this? How does this feel?
A person consenting to one form of sexual activity is not automatically consenting to all sexual activity.
And someone can consent one night, but not the next night.
Consent cannot be given by someone who is asleep or unconscious.
And consent cannot be given by someone who's incapacitated. So if someone is unable to make clear and conscious decisions because of drinking or taking drugs, that person cannot legally give consent to sexual activity.